Whatever the occasion, effortless elegance is right this way. Because Hilton brings you new ways to stay courtesy of the Nomad London. And it doesn't stop at award-winning dining in a space draped in velvet and illuminated by vintage chandeliers. No, this day goes beyond with unparalleled personalized service and attentive hospitality. Oh, and did we mention the Nomad London can be booked using your Hilton Honors points at Hilton.com? Hilton, for the stay.
Welcome back to I Want That Too, the podcast where Disney merch meets Disney history. I'm entertainment writer Jim Hill, and as always, I'm joined by the lovely Lauren Hersey.
Hey, Jim. How's it going?
Oh, it's going great. And by the way, I know on the last show we struggled to get this cute little charmer running. This is the Stitch, the talking Stitch toy that... on the last show, we were talking about the many moods of Stitch, the new talking show that's coming out for the live action. This is the original from 2002. And as it turns out, let's see, are you hungry?
Oh, coconut cake and coffee, please.
Oh,
Do you hear that?
yes.
All right.
I love you too.
Oh, yes, I know you love me. What's your badness level?
I'm having a pretty good day.
Oh, let's see. What else does he say? Tell me a joke.
Whatever.
Oh, okay. He's giving me attitude now. Are you being naughty? And now he's gone to sleep. Like most of our listeners at this point.
Hey, that's pretty advanced for the time.
No, absolutely. It was an amazing toy for the time. I will tell you... And quiet, go back to sleep. What ended up happening is the night we recorded our most recent I Want That Too, I got it up and running, but I realized that I needed to change out the batteries, and it took the better part of an hour first to get the battery pack out, which is the size of a Volkswagen bus, and then, put the batteries in, and then force the Velcro closed. But then, he's been an absolute charmer. Now, mind you, Nancy can make the thing jump through hoops, but as you've just seen, when I talk to him, it's like, yeah, fat man, give me back to Nancy. So, but anyway, I just wanted to give folks an update on that. And by the way, are you and the family planning to go out and check out Lilo and Stitch this weekend? Or
Well, funny.
You explain, please, because obviously, no, your dance card is full.
My dance card is full this coming weekend. My oldest has prom and graduation, both this weekend. But the funny thing is, Eric and I were in the car yesterday, and I was like, hey, do you guys want to go to the theater and see Lilo and Stitch? And of course, the kids were like, yay! And Eric's like, when did you all of a sudden like to go to the movie theater? I guess I'm kind of a hermit. I got a reputation. I was like, I will totally go to the theater for Lilo and Stitch, especially because my children will be off school, which means I can go at like noon. That's prime time movie viewing for us here.
No. Nancy and I do that all the... mind you, we're old farts, so we always wind up going at, Tuesday afternoons, which is literally senior citizen rate. and what's especially interesting is, for example, we saw Thunderbolts, I want to say 5 days after it opened, Tuesday afternoon at our local AMC theater. I want to say there were 5 of us in the auditorium. And I'm sorry, again, I'm old. Those chairs with the feet come up and you can lean back, and it's like, that's a dangerous way for me to watch a movie. I should be in a wooden chair with a black cup of coffee.
I think it's the best. Me and, 2 other people. That's amazing. I wish I could get the senior citizen rate.
It will happen, my dear. It will happen. But in your case, not for decades, many decades.
So how are you going to get the sitch on what's going on with the movie since Nancy's having her procedure?
We now live in a very interesting world with so many things. For example, I want to say it's now within days of, take for example, I just could not get out to see Captain America Brave New World when it debuted in theaters in February. It's going to be on Disney Plus in like 5 minutes now.
Snow White's already on Disney Plus.
Oh.
It was like, I swear we were just talking about it. It's on Disney Plus. Lainey and I sat down to watch it. And I would be lying if I told you we made it more than 15 minutes.
I mean, I'm not going to lie. I didn't have the option when we saw it in theaters back in April of thereabouts. You know, I mean, face it, you're sitting there watching a movie, you're not engaging, and that part of your brain goes, well, you know, there's stuff in the dryer. I could be folding that.
Yeah.
And that's the thing. The other things in your household that take precedent, you know, we had actually paid and walked into a theater and had beverages and popcorn. So we were going to sit there and tough it out. But it's literally double the length of the movie from 1937. And I'm sorry, it's not Snow White and the 14 Dwarfs. It's seven. It shouldn't be 2 hours and 20 minutes long.
I couldn't. And, you know, Lainey is upset because she's like, Snow White ruined it for everybody. We're not going to get Tangled now. And I'm like, well, I mean, you never know. Like look at the merch sales of the princesses, and then make your decisions on who gets a live action.
Well, it's very interesting that you say this, and to circle back to Lilo and Stitch, the live action, again, coming out in theaters. By the way, even head to head with Mission Impossible Final Reckoning, current box office projections say that this Disney film is going to pull in $120 million. And as I understand it, if it actually exceeds that number, we will hear that Tangled gets turned back on within the month. Because they have deals for studio space. They've had conversations with performers. They've got a director lined up, and everybody's potentially going to wander away to something new. And the whole thinking is like, look, if Stitch proves that, look, it just was Snow White. If you do these films right, people show up, and we will do Tangled right. So tell Lainey, hang in there. But more to the point, tell Lainey to tell all of her friends to go see Lilo and Stitch.
Listen, we will all. And I mean, Rapunzel, we call her Punzi, like, is our princess. Like, I mean, I think she's like the ADHD queen of princesses. So I love, like, yeah, we are big Punzi fans around here. So we're keeping our fingers crossed.
I would actually argue that Rapunzel is I mean, look, Frozen made more money than God, but Rapunzel is a better movie. I love that movie, if only for the snuggly duckling.
Oh, yes!
I had a dream once.
I love it. I love everything about it. Everything about it. And listen, I love Frozen too. But, you know, I really would like to see the live action. So it's not all just live action. Totally. It was just Snow White. And I think it was, you know, a sum of all parts situation. And, you know, like, you can't win them all, I guess.
No. And more to the point, I think the hard lesson that Disney learned, especially, you know, think about it, on the heels of Tim Burton's version of Dumbo underperforming, Robert Zemeckis' version of Pinocchio underperforming. You know, the only one of these things, classics, that actually have broken through is the original, the Kenneth Branagh Cinderella. And there's a lesson there to the effect of the older hand-drawn films. Audiences aren't necessarily as modern audiences, folks who actually go to theaters, as opposed to our old farts like myself. They want to see Tangled. You know, they love that movie and they want to see a live-action version of it.
Yes, so we love the princesses, you know. But on that note, I think we could get started with the show here. I think it's going to be another winner, even though we are starting with something a little trashy, and then we're going to talk about do a little. You like that? We're going to do a little deep dive on Spirit jerseys. And then we're keeping with the Spirit theme and talking some sports. My favorite topic.
All right, but before we do that, we have to acknowledge our sponsors, which, of course, is Be Our Guest Vacations. The folks who make planning your next Disney trip as easy as singing Be Our Guest. Whether it's Disney World, Disneyland, a Disney cruise, or even a visit to Alani, their expert travel planners handle all the details, resort reservations, park tickets, dining, Genie Plus, you name it. And they do it all at no extra cost to you. So, whether you're dreaming dreaming about your next magical vacation? Let someone else handle the stress while you focus on the fun. Visit beourguestvacations.com to get started. Okay, so you were talking trashy things just a moment ago? Well, all right, spill the trash, so to speak.
All I think of whenever I think of trash or trashy is Forky. From what was it, Toy Story 3?
Oh, there we go.
Yeah, but it's not Forky. These are actually an only at Disney type of thing. It is, I don't know, Jim, themed trash cans for bulk candy.
Well, the weird part of it is we've now seen trash cans as, I want to say, Christmas ornaments.
Yeah, we have those.
And clearly those sold. So now this is Disney kind of working through the rotation. It's like, all right, so what else can we put in these things, so to speak? So the notion of bulk candy in a trash can. I just want to point out here that you bring this home, you put it on the counter, your children dine out of it. You just keep an eye on them. The next time you take them to the park, it's like, oh, look.
Right? Is this a lesson? Is this what we're teaching our children?
Yeah.
Please eat from trash cans.
Yeah, that's I get every so often that we might be verging on a post-apocalyptic experience, but we can hold on that lesson.
Yeah. And we do. I think I told you we have salt and pepper shaker trash cans. So if you're about eating candy from a trash can, it was rolled out at Disney Springs, surprisingly. And the first one that we're seeing is the Main Street USA trash can. And word on the street is that it's also, at the Main Street Confectionery, the Zuri Sweet Shop at Animal Kingdom, the Boardwalk, Fort Wilderness, the Candy Cauldron. So you're getting a lot of different options here if you're a trash can collector. I don't know. I feel like Father's Day is coming up. Who knows? Maybe Eric will get one of those. But the candy is separate. So it's $14.99 for the container. And then you have to buy at least a half a pound of bulk candy to get one. So like a purchase with purchase.
I can get that.
Yeah. I mean, are people stocking? I'm looking at this. It says that there's only 2 per person. Are people stocking up on these and selling them on eBay?
Well, face it, the secondary market, in fact, it's always both amusing and frustrating to me. Like, for example, remember when Disney announced that, Splash Mountain would be closing to then be transformed into Tiana's Bayou Adventure, and to watch the photos of the people who actually looked like the Seven Dwarfs leaving the park with their giant bags full of Brer Bear and Brer Fox and Brer Rabbit plush, just so they could then put them up online. So, yeah, this is interesting. Though, quick side note, did you see that note we got in response to last week's stories about the pin traders at Epcot?
No.
Well, I should have sent this along to you. Basically, one of our readers reached out and mentioned that Disney has actually asked the pin traders to move out of the breezeway next to the pin trader store, because evidently what they were observing is that, well, pin traders had sort of figured out how to break the system. The very notion of you're only allowed to buy 2 of any one item. And what the pin traders evidently were doing was they'd be laying their bags out with their pins. Someone would come up and say, ooh, I want that pin. And they said, okay, well, here's the deal. You go into that store there. You buy that pin for me, the limited edition one. You bring it out here, and I will trade you this rare one in my bag for you. And evidently, this is how the people people who work this space were getting multiples of rare new edition pins. And Disney, to discourage this behavior, didn't throw anybody out of the park, but just suggested, you want to move a couple hundred feet up the street there. So it then becomes that much harder to persuade a tourist, yes, walk into the store, buy this, do this for me.
I didn't know those types of deals were
I
happening.
don't know. The wily pin traders. In fact, that was one of the reasons why, I gave that handful of reflection pins to Miles. I just felt so bad. It's like, oh, this sweet young kids entering this space, and I know enough pin traders. It's like, oh no, poor Miles. Anyway.
Yeah, and he's just like, I just want dates. Like, yeah, but it's all for fun. They're gonna have a harder time being found. I mean, like, it was like the sign was right behind them. It said pin traders. But I love when we hear from our listeners, and I did get a message on Instagram from I believe it was a nice lady who visited Disneyland, and we talked about the popcorn bucket Christmas ornaments, remember?
Yes,
maybe like a month or so ago,
yes.
and she said they were selling out.
Wow.
Like sold out. So I guess it was a great test, so we'll probably be getting more different types of popcorn bucket ornaments, knock on wood, for this Christmas.
Okay.
And the next person that wrote in since our last show, his name was Mike.
Okay.
And he had a conundrum about spirit jerseys. And I was like, oh, this is great. We have to talk about it. So Mike, he sends a message. I think that a lot of you will relate. So he had a classic Walt Disney World spirit jersey from like around, I think, 28. He describes it as cornflower blue with like the retro D with the globe. Like, I have one that's very, very similar. Says it's his favorite, but the letters are cracking because, right, it's old and we wear the heck out of our spirit jerseys. But he's not been able to find anything like that since. So, like, as he's been looking, it's more like things are super themed. Like, we saw the, snacks and characters and rides and a lot of like over the top design. So Mike's question was, did Disney stop selling the classic spirit jerseys to push more merch, or are spirit jerseys on their way out, is what Mike wanted to know.
Well, actually, there is a third possibility here, and I just want to float this. So he was looking recently?
Yes, for classic spirit jerseys.
Okay. Just want to float this out there. And he was in Florida, not California.
Florida. Yep, Disney World.
Okay. So we are now talking April, May. And think about it. We're now in the part of the year where someone begins playing with the thermostat in Florida, and it's like, ooh, hot, humid. This is exactly what I like for this part of Central Florida. And in that window of time, suddenly a spirit jersey is like, well, yes, please put that next to the vest that you wear in the depth of winter, because that'll sell equally well. What gets interesting is that, yes, Disney feels like they can sell a spirit jersey that time of year. For example, at Epcot, when it's Flower and Garden or Food and Wine. And in fact, as Mike just mentioned, the kind of over-the-top thing you get like at Food and Wine, like there's a giant piece of food and there's a giant glass of wine, or flowers or whatever. It's only when you get into the colder times of the year where suddenly you will walk into some place like the giant Epcot store, and these very pieces of clothing will be right by the front door because they know you're the person who flew down from New England and you go into Florida and it's going to be warm and now it's 30 degrees out and you don't have clothes. And so you are going to go in and you don't care what the spirit jersey costs. You're going to buy it. So I would suggest to Mike that maybe returning to the parks another time of year. It's quite likely in the November, December, January timeframe, you'd have a wider variety of spirit jerseys to choose from, largely because that's when Disney absolutely knows they can sell them to idiots like myself who don't pay attention. And, well, I'm going to Florida. I got shorts and I got T-shirts. And who set the thermostat at 20?
Yeah. And I mean, I personally, I don't think Spirit jerseys are going anywhere. They're a big seller for Disney. And I mean, the $79 price point, I think certainly helps
Absolutely.
keep them in the game. But I mean, it makes sense with what you're saying about the time of year. So when we were at Disneyland last year in October, I did get a black with the Disneyland D on the front with the Disneyland on the back. Very classic, as well as the one that it was like the purple glitter. And I have one from 2018 too, just like what he was describing. Mine's black. But I will say that I think that, they are trying to capitalize on the rides, the events, of the seasons. Like, I have so many Spirit jerseys, I can't even tell you like how many I have. But I think that like Disney is maybe even leaning a little bit back to the classics. In the parks. So my recommendation was, if you have somebody that's going to the parks, or if you're going to the parks, maybe going and trying to get them there. I have not seen a classic Disney World or Disneyland Spirit jersey, I don't think ever, on the Disney store. There's one right now, and I think it's a Disneyland, but it says Disney on the back and like characters. So that's the other thought. But all of this kind of got me like going down the rabbit hole to think back to, we started going to the parks, frequently in 2013, 2014. And I've had my Spirit jersey for a long time. I'm like, when did I like start buying Spirit jerseys, and where in the world did they come from? And so I thought we could take a little bit of a deep dive here, Jim, and tell folks where Spirit jerseys came from.
Well, it is an interesting history. I mean, I have to remember, this is a fashion trend that actually started outside of the park. In fact, it was the Spirit Clothing Company of Los Angeles that created this distinct clothing item back in 1983. And it took its inspiration from college sportswear. And, it was sort of the thing that you'd wear when you were tailgating. And it has, even today, some signature features. It's more of an oversized fit, for normal people. It has a ribbed yoke seam. The lettering on it tends to be puff print, raised just that little bit. And it's typically made out of what? How would you describe it? A thick, cozy cotton? Does that sound right?
I don't know if I would say it's cozy. Like, if you own Spirit jerseys, I do have to say I got one at Universal this last trip, and I feel like it was so much softer. I think that they're like a little like stiffer. I wish they were a little more cozy, but I still love them. I like them because they're oversized and they are comfy. So I could appreciate it.
Okay. Now, again, started back in 83, and it takes a while for these clothing items to come on Disney's radar. In fact, we're being serious. The collaboration, so to speak, begins in 2017, and the early versions in the park are, I'm not going to lie, kind of simplistic. I mean, they have the Walt Disney World or Disneyland logo across the back, and it's really kind of on the smaller side as a logo, right?
Yeah, the logo is small on the front, and then typically the big puffy letters they go all the way across the back.
But once these things began to become available in the park, I mean, as an item, Disney fans just grabbed them quickly. I mean, part of it is, face it, with those giant letters across the back, you're pretty much, I am a fan, look at my back. And, it's that combination of, it's a cozy fashion choice that makes a bold statement, and also, yeah, if you're somebody who's taking your pictures on your phone, the logo of that size stands out even in a picture on a phone. And then from just the standard, you have been to the park, here is your Disney or Disneyland or Disney World Spirit jersey, we then see them branching off into, well, holiday-specific ones, Halloween, Christmas. They then lean into the characters, Mickey, Stitch, and the villains. And then they just get weird. I love Dole Whips. I must say this with a Spirit jersey. Or...
Your team Dole Whip.
Yeah, that's it exactly. Or I worship at the Church of Churros. It's like I need that.
Oh my gosh, Jim, I had to tell you though, I literally have a Spirit jersey. I'll show you sometime.
Mm-hmm.
It says, so there was a Toy Story summer barbecue line.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I'm not even joking. I got this at the Character Warehouse. And the Spirit jersey says, reach for the fries. Like, reach for the fries.
Okay.
I've never worn it. Still got the tags.
Okay.
I don't know what I was thinking with that one. But clearly I'm on team French fries.
There we go.
But all that to say, thank you, Mike, for the email and Jim for the mini deep dive lesson that these Spirit jerseys have been around since '83. I don't think they're going anywhere anytime soon. But if you are from Disney and you're listening, we'd like the basics back. Pretty please.
Yeah. I was just hearing today that the new trend is to not be trendy.
Yes, it is.
Wow, I'm trendy. And I didn't even know it. That's the weird part of it. It might be the time to circle back to the original retro Disneyland and Disney World Spirit jerseys and see what would happen.
I guess we shall see. But staying on the theme of sports and school spirit, and we're knee deep in baseball season around here. After the break, you're gonna talk to us a little bit about the California Angels.
Yes.
Going back to the Eisner era, right?
There we go. But first, this.
This episode is brought to you by Indeed. When your computer breaks, you don't wait for it to magically start working again. You fix the problem. So why wait to hire the people your company desperately needs? Use Indeed's sponsored jobs to hire top talent fast. And even better, you only pay for results. There's no need to wait. Speed up your hiring with a $75 sponsored job credit at Indeed.com/podcast. Terms and conditions apply.
McCrispy strips are now at McDonald's. I hope you're ready for the most dippable chicken in McDonald's history. Dip it in all the sauces. Dip it in that hot sauce in your bag. Dip it in your McFlurry. Your dip is your business. McCrispy strips at McDonald's.
This episode is brought to you by Temptations Cat Treats. Your cat will come running for the perfectly irresistible Temptations Creamy Puree and Temptations Lickable Spoon Cat Treats. The best time to feed lickable cat treats to your cat is anytime. Feed by hand for a playful moment, in a bowl for a creamy treat, or as a topper to make mealtime fun. Visit TemptationsTreats.com to learn more.
And we're back. All right. So obviously, if you've been paying attention to this week's show, between talking about Miles and you had baseball games you had to go to this weekend, right?
Oh yes, all the baseball and cheering tryouts, and we got all the spirit up in here.
Okay. Well, I want to tell you actually have something in common with former Disney CEO Michael Eisner, because and if we're being completely honest here about why the Disney company, for a brief window of time, owned a couple of professional sports organizations, that was because of Eric Eisner, Michael Eisner's son. Now, just to bring you up to speed, Lauren, Michael Eisner had three boys, Breck, Eric, and Anders, and Eric was the sporty one. He played hockey. And Michael Eisner, in addition to being the CEO of the Walt Disney Company from 1984 through 2005, he was a dutiful dad. So, which meant that he would drive his kid to practice, and you know this drill. Lauren sat freezing in the stands as your kid practiced and didn't seem to be really all that good at it. But, you were a good parent. You were sitting there. And now, mind you, when you're a Michael Eisner, and you're sitting in the stand, you can go, well, maybe this is a movie. Maybe this is a TV show. So Michael turns around, after watching, all these kids falling down on the ice and that sort of thing, hires Stephen Brill, kids hockey team. Is there something there? And Steve comes up with the original Mighty Ducks movie, which arrives in theaters October of 1992, and by the way, did well enough to warrant 2 sequels. We got D2, The Mighty Ducks, that came out March of 94, and then D3, The Mighty Ducks, that comes out October of 96, and by the way, just a few weeks prior to D3 arriving at theaters, Mighty Ducks, the animated series, debuted on ABC September 6, 1996. And Lauren, only 26 episodes were produced, only ran 1 season, and we're not going to do anything in depth here, largely because this is literally how the description of the show starts off. And in a parallel universe, on a planet known as Puck World, humanoid ducks. And it's like, that's it. I'm out.
That's enough.
That's enough. Thank you. All right.
I was going to say, I don't remember. I don't remember that.
And you've lived a good life, Lauren. Don't feel like you missed anything. Okay. By the way, also worth noting, more recently over on Disney Plus, we got The Mighty Ducks Game Changers. It was a limited series with Lauren Graham of Gilmore Girls fame, Emilio Estevez, back from the original, and one of Nancy's favorites, Josh Duhamel. That, by the way, only lasted 2 seasons, September 2021 through February of 2023, and literally within the last week, Emilio Estevez did an interview where he said that he had actually written a script for a 4th Mighty Ducks movie, one that he hoped would undo the damage to this Disney franchise that Game Changers had done over at Disney Plus. And the mouse very politely said, "We wish not to see this screenplay." All right. So now, as to how the Mighty Ducks of Anaheim hockey team came on the scene. Now, what's interesting about this, Lauren, is 2 months after the original Mighty Ducks movie arrived in theaters in October of 1992, Disney was awarded an NHL franchise in December of that same year, 1992. Now, mind you, Disney had to pay a $50 million entry fee, and half of that money was then given to the Los Angeles Kings because, it's like, I'm really sorry, but Disney is now going to, on your turf, launch another hockey team. So you're going to be competing in the Los Angeles market for the same fan base. So here's a $25 million penalty. Anyway, we don't find out that Disney is calling its new hockey team the Mighty Ducks till March of 93. That's when the name of this team was revealed at the brand new Anaheim Arena, which is located just to the east of Disneyland and just across the street, or just across the Orange Freeway from Angel Stadium. By the way, filed that away when we get to the Anaheim Angels portion of today's story. But Lauren, I want to stress here, there was a method to Michael Eisner's madness by buying not 1, but 2 sports franchises that were based in and around Anaheim. Michael was betting on synergy. What he envisioned was, this notion that Disneyland was now going to be able to sell a combo ticket where you could spend your day in the happiest place on earth, and then in the afternoon you climb on a bus and you go over and see a professional sports game. Or conversely, you go to see an afternoon game at Angel Stadium. And then once the game is over, you hop on the bus, you go over to downtown Disney, and you grab some dinner, or you do a little post-game celebrating at the bars there. And now the Ducks, they actually did surprisingly well straight out of the gate. Within their first decades, they were conference champs, in 2002, 2003. And they then actually go on to play for the Stanley Cup in their 2006-2007 season. Unfortunately, Michael Eisner, as 2003 gave way to 2004, he found himself dealing with the Save Disney movement, where one of the big complaints that Walt's nephew, Roy, made about the way Eisner was running Disney, was that he had the company involved in a lot of things that, to be frank, made no sense for the mouse, like owning a professional hockey team. And so the Save Disney movement, which resulted, by the way, in Michael receiving a 43% no confidence vote in 2004 at the annual shareholders meeting, which, by the way, is when Disney or Eisner gave up his chairmanship at Disney, though he would stay on as the CEO through September of the following year, 2005. But anyway, in an effort to clean house, so to speak, address some of the concerns of shareholders, Disney quietly puts the Mighty Ducks on the market in 2004. But the highest offer they get for this professional sports team, which again had been conference champions in 2003, 2004, they only get a $40 million offer, which is $10 million less than their entry fee back in December of 92. But anyway, a weird little bend on the story. February 17th, 2004, Disney, after 15 years of pursuing the Muppets, finally acquires a set of characters from the Jim Henson Company for $70 million. But just 1 week later, Lauren, February 25th, 2004, Disney sells the Mighty Ducks to Dr. Henry Samueli and his wife Susan, well-known Orange County entrepreneurs and philanthropists, also for $70 million. So, on paper, Disney loses the Ducks and gains the Muppets.
I think it's a pretty good deal.
That's a pretty good deal. Now, as for the Angels, that's kind of a trickier story, which we're going to get to in a moment. But first, this.
Are your business expenses playing hide and seek? With Uber for Business, the small spends that slip through the cracks, like rides and meals, go right where you need them. Because it integrates with leading expense platforms, you can say goodbye to surprise costs, missing dollars, or chasing receipts. Everything's track downable. Uber for Business. Make small steps that make a big impact. Learn more at uber.com/small steps.
What does every USAA member have in common? Family. We're one big family who supports the military community and their eligible families. And if you, your parent, or spouse served, you could join our family and save big on auto insurance. Visit USAA.com/join today to check your eligibility. Membership eligibility and product restrictions apply and are subject to change. USAA means United Services Automobile Association and its affiliates, San Antonio, Texas.
Vitamin Water Zero Sugar has great taste, zero BS, and obviously zero sugar. For those with zero room in their calendar. Zero patience for slow walkers. Those who get 0 hours of sleep on a Saturday night. Have zero filter, zero given, and zero interest in grabbing a plain, boring water. Grab a delicious Vitamin Water Zero Sugar today.
And we're back. Okay, so Lauren, just to recap, we were discussing the history of the Mighty Ducks, and as part of that, we mentioned there was a Mighty Ducks movie before there was a professional hockey team. Now, what's kind of interesting about our next story is, well, yes, there was a Disney movie called Angels in the Outfield. Yeah. Christopher Lloyd, Danny Glover, I want to say Joseph Gordon-Levitt. That opened in theaters July of 1994. And it wasn't until 10 months later that Disney reveals that it would be buying 25% of the California Angels, a professional baseball team in the American League West. And again, that's May of 95. So again, we seem to have another Disney makes a movie and then makes a deal situation. But twist on the story is Disney's version of Angels in the Outfield is actually a remake of a movie that MGM sent out into theaters back in September of 1951. So Angels, as a film, actually existed for 4 years before there was even a Disneyland, let alone, Disney getting into professional sport. And now this team, from its inception, was owned by Gene Autry, the legendary movie cowboy and crooner. And Lauren and I were pre-gaming this earlier in the show. Trust me, folks, even if you haven't seen a single one of the 93 movies that this guy made between 1934 and 1953, you've definitely heard of Gene Autry. Gene, who popularized the musical Western, also recorded the original versions of a number of holiday standards. We're talking the original Frosty the Snowman from 1950, Here Comes Peter Cottontail from 1951, and Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer from 1957. So trust me, folks, every December...
We all know Gene.
We all know Gene. And more to the point, he was a sharp businessman. He took all of the money he made playing a singing cowboy and plowed it into things like real estate and radio stations. And this, for example, is why Gene, in 1982, was able to sell KTLA, one of the biggest, stations.
That's one of our stations.
Is it really? Okay.
Yes.
Gene owned it and sold it for $245 million back in 82, which, by the way, in 2025 dollars, that's $833 million. So by the mid-1980s, Gene Autry wants for nothing. He is wealthy beyond his wildest dreams. More to the point, he has, over the past 50 years, acquired an absolute amazing collection of Western art and memorabilia. And Gene has long dreamed of building a museum to showcase all of these items. And Autry's original plan for this project was to build such an attraction up at Melody Ranch, which was, by the way, where Gene shot all of his movies in the 30s and the 40s. And he then turns around and buys the whole damn thing, all 110 acres in 53, and is moving forward with the idea of his museum. But then, in kind of a cruel twist, and in fact something that's really going to resonate with our Southern California listeners here. August of 1962, one of those horrible Southern California wildfires happens, and 54 structures on Melody Ranch, along with 17,000 recordings of Gene's radio and television appearances, they all go up in smoke. And this is why Gene decides that if he's actually going to build his Western Art Museum, he wants it a lot closer to civilization, not out in the sticks up by Newhall, California, Placerita Canyon. By the way, kind of up where Jim Schul lives.
I was going to say, was that near Jim Schul?
There we go. Also near where Disney's Golden Oaks movie production facility is located. So Gene decides, I want to be in LA, and sets his sight on a corner of Griffith Park. Now, again, wealthy beyond imagining. So Gene could have bought this land outright if it were actually for sale. But again, Griffith Park is in a trust to the city of Los Angeles. But ever the shrewd businessman, Gene arranges a 50-year lease on 12.75 acre parcel in Griffith Park, which, by the way, primo location, right at the corner of the 5 and the 134 freeway. Lauren, he does this for $1 a year. And this is back in 1986. And now where this gets interesting is in the same window of time, Disney puts word out that it is making Walt Disney Imagineering available to work on outside projects, not just the Disney parks, not just hotels, but...
Why would they do that?
Yeah. They only did it for a short window of time. And Gene, who'd long been a fan of the Disney theme parks, and remember, he was thinking about turning Melody Ranch up until that fire in August of 62 into, a Southern California tourist attraction like Disneyland, he reaches out and engages WDI services. And the end result, which, by the way, Alice and I visited, the Gene Autry Museum of Western Art during my most recent trip to Los Angeles. It's a lovely 144,000 square foot structure, 12 different galleries, Lauren, not to mention an archive of over 500,000 pieces that Gene had collected over his lifetime. This opens in November of 1988, and people are just dazzled. But more importantly, lines of communication have now opened between Gene Autry and the new Disney company management. And also important to understand, by 1988, Gene Autry is 81 years old and beginning to wonder what is going to happen to my empire after I'm gone. Disney, on the other hand, is looking at expanding its holdings in the Anaheim area, and the fact that Anaheim Stadium sits on 150 acres that is just a 7-minute drive away from Disneyland. So it's like, ooh. So conversations started in 1989. Now, mind you, it's not until Disney actually buys that new NHL franchise in December of 1992, which, by the way, reminds Gene that when he bought what back then was known as the Los Angeles Angels in 1961, they were a new expansion franchise as well. So Autry is like, okay, so Disney's actually getting serious about moving into sports. And then in July of 1995, when Gene learns that Disney's going to buy ABC Cap Cities for $19 billion, which then will give Disney control over ESPN, this is when Autry says, okay, let's talk. And here's the deal, Lauren. Gene agrees to sell Disney, again, 25% of California Angels in 1996, and then a controlling interest in the team the following year. But with the expressed understanding that between those 2 points, the Walt Disney Company would then pour $100 million into upgrades and improvements at Anaheim Stadium, with the idea that from that point forward, there would be a consistent level of quality, a certain sort of guest experience that guests would have at Disneyland and when they attended an Anaheim Angels game. And by the way, the key part of this deal was that upon Autry's death, the Walt Disney Company would then agree to buy out the remainder of Gene's stake in the team at a fair market price, and that would then go to his heirs. Now, sadly, what no one anticipated was that Autry would actually pass shortly after this deal had been set in motion. In fact, October 2nd, 1998. And now, picture this, Lauren. It's, again, the fall of 1998. California Adventure is already under construction at this point, next to the original Disneyland Park. And if we're being completely honest here, Walt with the Ducks making their home just up the street at the Anaheim Ice Arena, the mouse is starting to spread a little thin.
You're running out of cheese.
There we go. And this is why Disney's stint of finally being fully in charge of the Anaheim Angels wasn't exactly heaven on earth. And tell you what, folks, we will get to the rest of this story on an upcoming episode of I Want That Too, because let's face it, we are barely into baseball season at this point. But for now, we're calling today's game on account of, well, Lauren and I are running out of time on this podcast, right?
Well, I think on that note, I think it's time we close up shop for today. We're both in agreement, and we definitely will revisit this in a episode soon.
Okay, and if you want to stay updated on everything happening across the Jim Hill Media Podcast Network, follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and X, and don't forget to check out our Patreon stuff for bonus shows like Disney Unpacked with Len Testa and Imagineer Jim Schul.
And if you're enjoying the podcast, we'd love it if you could leave us a quick review. It really helps more folks find out about us.
And as we mentioned tonight, for example, with Mike's story about the Spirit jerseys, if you've got questions or ideas for future episodes, please drop us a message on social or email us. I can be reached at jim@jimhillmedia.com, and Lauren can be found at lauren@laurenhersey.com.
Yes, I can. Or Eric on Blue Sky. No, anyways, thanks for listening, everybody, and we'll see you next time on I Want That Too.